is the exact word I can use. I was traumatized because I didn't know how my parents are going to react when they find out that I'm pregnant. And I've watched movies where people are pregnant and they are being sacked from the house, they drop out of school, and the stigmatization that comes with getting pregnant when you're just in JHS, that whole thing, misinformation, any curiosity, and then this is why we Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about all things real and unfiltered. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you never miss out on any of my content. Now, today's topic is one that we can all relate to. My first period, why we should have sex conversations with our children. I don't mean sex conversation, but sex education with our children. That's right. Today we are going to talk about what they never told us, featuring my own experience. Now, before we dive in, let's talk about why this topic is so important. We all remember that awkward moment when our parents sat us down and tried to explain the birds and the bees. But let's be real. How many of us really understood what they were talking about? And how many of us were too afraid and embarrassed to ask questions? This is why it's so important to have an open and honest conversation about this topic so we can all be informed and make smart choices. Now, before we dive in, let's talk about why this topic is so important. We all remember that awkward moment where our parents sat us down and tried to explain the birds and the bees with us. Now, how many of us really understood what they were talking about? Let's be real. And how many of us were embarrassed and so afraid to ask questions? We all know how sex education is sensitive in the Ghanaian home, and how our parents like to talk to us about sex in concealed language. Yes, this is why it's so important for us to talk about this topic. This is why it's so important to discuss this topic. This is why it's so important to have an open and honest conversation about this topic so that we can all be informed and make smart choices. Now, this is where I talk to you about my own experience. Now, I know it's so embarrassing and I don't like talking about it, but I'm going to say it. I had my first period in JHS1, and by then I was about 13. Yes, I was 13 years old. And when when you menstruate in Ghana, I don't know about other ethnic groups, but for the Akans, they do this. Even if they're not going to do the intensive background where they're going to shave your hair and do all of that, at least you get your eto and your egg to eat. So yes, it happened on a Sunday, and on the Monday, my mom didn't make me go to school. They had to perform this, should I say ritual? They had to perform this ritual for me. So my mom prepared the tour and the eggs, and I was allowed to wear white. It was not a cloth, but it was a dress. Yes, it was a dress. It was a white dress. And I came to sit outside with my mom, and then she asked me to eat the tour, and then I ate it, and I ate my egg too. So after that, we were talking. She said it in Fanti. Now let me say it in Chi. Let me quote the exact thing she said. She was like, "Mother," that's how my mom calls me. "Sisia ayebisia. Se edzo kabenina ebenyinsen." Do you know what this means? It means that you're now a woman, and if you have body contact or physical contact with a man, you'll get pregnant. And that is exactly how I understood it. That's exactly how I understood it. That if I touch a man, if I have a body contact with a man, if I shake a man, if a man touches me, if I touch a man, if I have any sort of body contact with a man, I'm going to get pregnant. Yes. And I didn't ask questions. It sounded so scary to me, to be very honest. I was so scared when she said that. So scared. I was like, so the following day, I was allowed to go to school when I was still bleeding when I went to school. And then when I went to school, in my class we were sitting one boy, one girl, one boy, one girl. So with this mindset in my head, I went to class and then I asked this lady. There was a girl called, what's her name? I don't remember. But I asked the guy sitting by her to go and sit by the guy I was sitting by, so that I sit by the lady. So I sat by her throughout our first period, and then we went for break. Now when we went for break, that was when it got real scary. Now I was I was doing everything possible not to have anybody contact with any boy. Now I was a type of girl that I like to play with boys. I'm very jovial and I'll tease you. In fact, na me gidi gidi. Me pen people. You know, I was how do you say gidi gidi in English? Yes, na me gidi gidi. Let's take it like that. So I was trying my possible best to avoid boys. But the boys did not avoid me. It was impossible to avoid these boys. So one way or the other, these boys came to me, touched me, and we laughed and all of that. I didn't know how to tell them that, please, I'm menstruating. I don't want you to touch me. Or don't touch me, I'll get pregnant. I didn't know how to say that because you know how it sounded bad to talk about bleeding, your period, and all of that. You know how bad it sounded. You don't even want anybody to know that. Nah, it sounded like if a guy hears that, it's nasty, and that's the mentality they put in us, that it is dirty to talk about these kind of things. But it's not dirty. So that's exactly how I was feeling. I was not able to voice out that this is what is going on, so don't touch me, which I was not even supposed to do. But I did it. No, I didn't do it. But I was avoiding boys. So it happened. And then after I had my first period in September, so October, November, December, I was supposed to have like a series of them. Like I get in November, I get in October, I get in December, but it didn't happen like that. Now I know better. It didn't happen like that. And I was thinking I was pregnant. And you have no idea what I went through. It was crazy. I could lock myself in my room, cry. I was all the time moody. I couldn't learn. I was traumatized. That is the exact word I can use. I was traumatized because I didn't know how my parents are going to react when they find out that I'm pregnant. And I've watched movies where people are pregnant and they are being sacked from the house. They drop out of school, and the stigmatization that comes with getting pregnant when you're just in JHS, that whole thing was going through my mind. I didn't know you had to have sex before you get pregnant. I was thinking people get pregnant through physical contact, through body contact. I never knew this. And my parents didn't tell me. They told me it was body contact. And I didn't understand. So this is what I went through till January when I had my menses again. Mind you, I didn't understand whatever was going on. But when I saw my menses, when I saw my period, I was so happy that I was not pregnant. I got relieved from the trauma. And even though I still didn't understand what was happening to me, I never told my parents, and ever since then I've been having some AE till I got to the stage where I actually learned about sex education from the internet and school. And even in school, it was not in plain language. I had to learn it. I had to learn it from friends, other people, school, and from my own research, which is bad. we should make these conversations. We should have these conversations with our children and the young ones, the next generation. If you have a sister who is menstruating, you should let her know that this is the stage you have entered. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to know. This way, she is empowered. You are even boosting her self-confidence by letting her know these things. So why did my parents use this concealed language? Well, as many of you may know, sex education in Ghana is a pretty sensitive topic. It's not something that's talked about openly, and many parents find it difficult to have these conversations with their children. But the reality is, by using this concealed language, they made it even more confusing for me and left me feeling misinformed. So here's the question: should sex education be concealed from young people like it was from us? Personally, I don't think so. By avoiding this conversation, we are only doing a disservice to ourselves and our children. We need to create a safe and open space for these conversations to happen so we can all be informed and empowered. By hiding this conversation, we are only misleading the young ones and ourselves, our children, and the next generation, because it's going to misinform our children. And then children are very curious people, curious human beings, and they always want to see. This is why teenage sex is all over the place. Teenage pregnancy is all over the place. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something new. Now I want to hear from you. What was your experience with the birds and the bees? What didn't they tell you? What did you wish you knew? Did your parents use any concealed language like mine did? And what do you think about having open and honest conversation about sex education? Let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, for the whole wide world to know that yes, Naki OS is here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again same time next week.